Back, Joe?
Yes, great to be back.
So,
Brought back the warm weather.
yes, hopefully it stays for longer than the 3 or 4 days they're forecasting.
I know.
All right, minutes from the January 10th, Scott, we all set? Yep. Okay, the minutes from the January 10th meeting. Anyone have any change? I have a motion to accept.
I'll second.
Sue, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Budget report is attached. Highlighted in yellow, on the revenue side, we received one administrative fee that we bill companies for CG Roxanne, and waiting for the one for Benjamin Moore. We received the legal services reimbursement from Win Stanley for $2,500. We received the second annual installment from the Gloversville Water Board of $5,000 for the work we did on the water line going up to the elevated tank at Tryon. Some investment earnings, and then there was a transfer of our reserve fund to make up the difference needed to cover the expenses listed below, which were salary, taxes. We at your last meeting authorized a reimbursement to Kara's firm for legal services on the Win Stanley project. That's showing up there. And the Tryon Technology Park, we had town of Johnstown fire tax and a speedies permit totaling the $685.44. The annual meeting invoice that was there. We had the gold membership to the CRG that was authorized at your last meeting. Another town of Johnstown fire tax for a little portion of Brielle down on Route 30A. Work done on the IDA's website, and miscellaneous, which was our annual fee for Zoom. Those are the total expenses from January 1 through this meeting. So, any questions? A little parcel on 30 one next to the go card. Yes, sorry. When we tried to sell, but if he's still interested, no. All right, unfortunately. So, all right.
Make a motion to accept the
Joe,
budget report.
thank you, Joe.
I'll second.
Dave, thank you. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Committee reports, audit, monthly bank reconciliations. Dave, you took a look.
I did. I reviewed them yesterday. Everything looked good and had no comments.
Very good. Oh, we'd like to go back to the budget report. Attached, there's a third page to the report, which are your T-bills. And just like to point out down at the bottom, that to date, we've earned over $10,000 of interest on those T-bills, which is significantly better than the $10 that we would have earned if we kept it in our money market account. So we'll come back to that later in the agenda.
I will say it's a little hard to understand, not being in banking, exactly what the actual value is, just because of the amount of purchase, the maturity value, and all of that.
It's a little complicated.
Yeah,
Yes,
just a bit.
it is. So.
Being a banker is complicated.
Fair. It's my fair
Um, we have no IDA liaison here, so there's no county report. The CRG report, for all of you who do or do not know, Dennis Wilson is the newest member to the CRG board, and he must have drawn the short straw to.
I know, a couple of weeks and here I am, but glad to be here, everybody, and glad to be a member of the CRG board. This is, I should know, great organization. Some things that Ron told me, I think you probably have a copy of the report.
Yes,
there,
yes,
but-
you do. Yep.
CRG closed up, let me tell you, Ron said, tell them everything, but if they ask questions, tell them to call him.
Okay.
Okay, so, because I don't have any details behind this. CRG closed on an agricultural loan through the 6-county Job Development Authority agricultural loan plan. And again, this month, we had several business inquiries, among them an engine repair business and a small agricultural business. We're assisting Kroger Lake for the possible opportunity. The out-of-state glove sewing operation that purchased Samco Manufacturing is now located at 34 West Fulton Street. They currently employ around 12 people. Phase 2 studies are to begin on 2 sites as part of the Fulton County Brownfield Grant Program. Both the 2022 and micro enterprise and the 2021 micro enterprise grant programs continue to be successful. We're approaching 100 grants since the inception of the program 6 years ago. 6 county brownfield summit update going to be held on the April 25th and 26th in Fulton. Countywide loan fund closed on 1 loan this month. The CRG signed an agreement to administer the City of Johnstown Loan Fund. The CRG hosted a legislative meet and greet with our new state senator and assembly representatives. Nearly 100 people from Fulton County Economic and Business Opportunity Community attended. I was one of them. It was a great event. Anybody who was there was recognized. It was a great event. The Global Downtown Revitalization Initiative administration is underway. We've been meeting with project awardees, making sure that they get their updated budgets and costs together, and the CRG is initiating contact with state agencies on their behalf. And lastly, we've been working with the city of Gloversville on the brownfield opportunity area, specifically the Crescent area of Gloversville, to help transform sites into community investment opportunities. And if somebody wants to ask where the Crescent site is, I can't answer that because I brought up in Gloversville. I live out in Macon. I never heard of the Crescent area or site in Gloversville. Anybody know where that is?
No. Nope.
It's down that area, like where Fulton and Orchard Street are. You know what I mean, Joe?
Yes.
I think there's a railroad boxcar there, and
Yeah.
it's a Fairbanks Field store.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fairbanks Feed, I should say. So I've never heard that. Have you, Jim?
No.
Crescent area? So I learned
Crescent.
something. So appreciate being able to have this opportunity to report to you.
Now you have to find out why they call that. Now we know where it is. Why is it called? What's the history behind it? So, yeah, I'm in the Crescent area.
I'll
Interesting.
look into that for you.
Okay.
There's the leather company was in Johnstown, Crescent Leather. Going great juice.
That's what I thought of immediately.
Yeah.
That was in Johnstown.
Yeah, it's spread some Townsend.
Is the farm to table tour on the radar of the CRG?
The, what is it?
Farm to table tour. So it's a Fulton Montgomery County tour, self-guided tour that they put on last year, and they're doing it again this year. It's last year they had 32 farms that participated. So I'm wondering if there's some education the CRG could do on the grants that they offer, or some sort of mutual something that could happen there.
I really don't know. I'm not going to give you the standard answer that Ron said to say, but I really.
Plant the seed in Ron's ear for me.
Yeah, I hope the question came up and maybe.
I see there could be an opportunity on both sides of the fence there for them to, maybe apply for grants or something,
Right.
or,
Sure.
there's something there, I
I'll
think.
ask him.
And number one, if you can maybe ask Ron, I know it's a 6-county job development area. Do you know if it came to Fulton County or whether it was in some other county?
Okay.
Because I think it's probably in another area, but just curious where it went to.
All right, maybe Scott, do we know which 2 parcels, number 5 for the EPA brownfield grant?
I'm not sure exactly, for the phase 2 part, I don't know. I don't-
Okay. Very good. Thanks, Dennis.
Evidence.
You're welcome.
Moving on to old business, Nexus Renewables, nothing really new to report there. For Win Stanley, the option agreement that was approved at your last meeting has been executed. We received an invoice from Fitzgerald Morris Baker Firth for work performed to date on the Win Stanley project. Total invoice is $6,420. We have received to date $7,500 from Win Stanley. So what we've received will cover this particular expense, but we need authorization to pay that bill. Someone be willing to make a motion?
I'll make a
for
motion.
that?
Wait a second. I'm not done looking at these figures. 0.2, 0.4, 0.1. I'm adding them all up right now.
Yeah, make sure the math is right, Joe.
Yes, I second it.
Very good.
I did it quick.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Backup generator project, the generator has been installed, National Grid, thank you. Has been contacted to turn the gas on. Supposedly they were there last week to do that. And once that's completed, Cobalt will start the generator and make arrangements for staff to be trained on that. So we're nearing the completion of that particular project. All right, action item for today is the Benjamin Moore project. Back in 2021.
Excuse me, Jim, do I have to leave? I'm gonna
Yes.
recuse myself.
Yes.
I claim for you.
2021, the IDA authorized granting sales tax exemptions for the Benjamin Moore expansion project as shown there on your agenda. Last year, the IDA board approved a request from Benjamin Moore to increase the total sales tax exemptions, again, as shown on your agenda. And Benjamin Moore has come back and submitted a second request to increase the total sales tax exemptions for their expansion project, again, as shown there in your agenda. And the reason cited by Benjamin Moore for making this request is the cost of materials, inflation driving the cost of materials up. So, but because this request will result in providing additional benefits exceeding $100,000, we're recommending that another public hearing be held on this proposed increase, and proposing a public hearing to be held on Monday, February 27th at 10 a.m. right here in this room to offer the public an opportunity to comment on this request for additional exemptions. Kara has drafted a resolution to that effect, which is attached to the agenda for your perusal. Kara, anything specific about this? Just pretty standard?
No, just authorizing.
Authorizing a public hearing. Any questions?
How many times can they do that, ask for
As many times.
that?
Yeah, there's no.
Just out of curiosity, they're claiming this, are they proving it in any way that they've got these increased costs and stuff? I mean, like, they're saying that they've been hit with, escalating pricing. And that's the genesis of making this kind of request. Now, the second one. Are they required to demonstrate to us what they're seeing in the way of increases or anything like that?
No, just like when they come to us originally and they say, here's our project cost, we have no basis of questioning that. It's just that's their estimate.
Okay.
Kara, anything?
I mean, they have to report to tax and finance too, their amounts.
Okay.
And, tax and finance has the right to audit any of their submittals.
Mhm.
If there was something that, you could ask them for an updated project budget. And you could question specifically where the additional costs are with respect to their project. I will say that every single ongoing project that I'm involved in has had an increase. So I don't think it's unusual in this current
I don't-
situation.
I certainly don't dispute. the
Yeah,
claim, because I see it every day in my
Yeah.
own profession, but I was just curious if there was a requirement, since there will be additional benefits offered to them, if there's a requirement to demonstrate it or
Well,
anything.
the only proof will be when they file these forms,
Mhm.
they're gonna have to document,
Okay.
that these are our actual costs that we incurred you know, in order to, and these are the amount of sales taxes that we actually paid. And so the amount of actual sales tax paid is really the documentation of the expense.
Okay, so there is a proof in the pudding, so to speak, at some point.
Yeah.
But it kind of comes after the fact,
Got it. Okay,
okay?
thank you.
Would someone be willing to make a motion?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Moving on to new business, our pilot report, we've, gone through all that, and we did identify, two issues with two particular, projects where, there were discrepancies in the amount of, pilot, invoicing that was taking place. We contacted the local taxing jurisdictions, notified them of what we found, and it's really up to them to take whatever corrective actions they wish to take. So, as shown here, on item number 4, as of January 1 of this year, we have 5 active projects: CG Roxanne, YMCA, Benjamin Moore, Virial Health, and Hoffman's. And of those 5, we have 3 active pilots. CG Roxanne, which if you look on the right-hand side, that's going to expire this year and end. So at the end of this year, we'll be down to 2 pilots. We'll be with Benjamin Moore and with Hoffman's car wash project. Any questions? Next item, goals for 2023. At your last meeting, we proposed a number of those as shown there on your agenda. Attached to your agenda towards the end is a 2-page review, summary of the strategies that were included in our this labor market analysis, an update that was done recently. And in there, I wanted you to take a look at these to see, is there any particular project or initiative listed in here that may be of interest to you to try to undertake as a potential goal for 2023. And so what you're seeing here, there's 2 main columns, and you can see up top on the first page, one is titled 2016, the other one is 2022. The 2016 are all of the recommendations that were included in the original labor market analysis report done in 2016. And the one on the right is the one that was the recommendations contained in the one that was just completed late last year. The items that are in the right-hand column that are in bold print are in essence new recommendations that were contained in the 2022 report that were different from what was in the 2016 report. So again, I look at some of these. If you start up top, one of the recommendations: market the region as an alternative to either Albany or Utica markets, citing time to markets and labor draw. Target specific industries that are prevalent in both lateral markets but not currently present in the Fulton County region. Promote local entrepreneurial activity in new product development and training matches by local institutions to provide job-ready applicants in manufacturing industries. Develop affordable housing options close to work centers. Again, I'm not going to go through all of these, but there was one other one I did want to mention. Not sure which one it is. I don't know if you want to take a minute to look at those, and again, if none of those strike your fancy, that's fine. But if there's anything in there that you think might be of interest to try to take a look at doing this year, let's talk about it.
I mean, there's probably a number of things in here that we'd be interested in, but what of them really aligns with our mission in terms of what we can do and should be
I
doing?
guess I would add to this is, we got Global Foundries in Malta. We've got Wolfspeed, which is in the former Rome Air Force Base. As everybody knows, his fleet's putting in a lot of money into that Micron facility in Clay. and Greg, correct me if I'm wrong. FM has had a clean room for longer than most other community colleges. I think everyone else is on a push to have that happen now.
Yeah.
I think you guys are probably ahead of the case, and I know a number of at least my son's friends have taken advantage of that program and have jobs at Global Foundries now.
Mhm.
You know, I think the amount of money that's gonna be poured into those projects, you're gonna have supporting companies that are gonna looking for space in upstate New York. And if we're between all those three, we might have might be an area which would be a strategic advantage. It's not gonna be heavy warehouse traffic, I wouldn't think, because microchips are pretty small. I think some of the suppliers may wanna be located in between, somewhere in between those three.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I think if we could do something that maybe in conjunction with promoting FM already has a clean room and they're training those employees. And we've got space and we're in between those three. That might be something we want to focus on.
So I understand that sort of intrinsically. I guess I'm just curious, are you suggesting then that we start a campaign of some kind to attract business, or because our presumptive mission is to provide benefits to companies interested in expanding or relocating to the area?
Anyway, I think that maybe we talk with Adam at Winstanley and say, lay out exactly that we have areas to train that workforce
Mhm.
located here. We have space and we're kind of located in between those three projects.
Mhm. Mhm.
And the other thing I look at this affordable housing as the governor in her budget has a lot of money in there for affordable housing.
Mhm.
There's a lot of tax credits for affordable housing. I'm not saying that we developed affordable housing, but maybe we identify some areas. As we're talking with the Crossroads Park,
Mhm.
we're gonna do some work to get that ready for what we think the developer would want to see. How much land, how much road frontage, where are the wetlands, what
Mhm.
utilities are there?
Mhm.
All the things the developer might want to see so that they know that the project's viable.
Well, I think if that's also what you're thinking about, then, which I happen to agree, affordable housing is a need here. But a lot of that money is being tied to supportive housing initiatives, so mental health, that sort of thing. Which again, there's a demonstrated need, but there are agencies that are in place to facilitate that. So we in theory could try to connect with those agencies to let them know what sites might be available. But it would also probably be worth our time to find sites that align with HCR criteria for site selection, which is often predicated on locating sites within walking distance of neighborhoods and services. So that Crossroads site is not an ideal site because you're too far away. It's not easily walkable to services.
HCR's
Housing Community Renewal State Agency. So they're the ones who are really kind of driving the distribution of a lot of that initiative through state grants and administration of sometimes federal grants through HUD and that sort of thing. So they have a particular mission that they want to see with the money that's spent, and it's often tied to trying to reinvigorate downtown areas or other neighborhoods. So I happen to think that's a good idea. If everybody else would think that that's a good use of our resources to move on something like that, because letting somebody know, one of these agencies in town know what sort of sites are available might be, sort of a leg up on trying to get something established. And I've been saying for years that there needs to be a coordinated housing policy in Fulton County that just is not happening. So. we can be a part of that, yes, we should be.
How do you want to establish, you want to define it as a goal? Somehow?
Yeah, 'cause I think we probably need to talk a little bit more about
Yeah.
the mechanics of how to make that happen. I'd suggest that maybe that become a topic of conversation in one of our meetings.
So we just say something about participating in countywide discussion on housing
Mhm.
as a potential
Sure,
goal?
yeah.
Okay. So we would add that, to the list that's on there. Is there anything else we wish to add, or?
Can we explain C to me again, support the CRG and what kinds of efforts at brownfields remediation? How are we going to be doing that? Because I don't know that much about the brownfield situation. I know it was listed last month.
Scott, correct me if I'm wrong, there didn't full-time receive some grant money to remediate brownfields.
The CRG does.
Right.
Yeah. Yep. So my thought is, from our role is, after those properties are remediated, we may want to take control of those. So say if they ever cleaned up the pink buildings on Harrison 30A, and it got a thumbs up as a clean environmental, that might be something as the idea we might want to look at gaining control of to help facilitate maybe, future business there.
Or there may be some other yet to be defined role that the IDA can play. And I think right now, the program is being run by the CRG with support from the county.
Mhm.
And again, I think Mike's suggestion was if there's a way that the IDA in some way, shape or form could assist in getting these properties, put back on and redeveloped, that we would be willing to do so. Okay.
I think that's something.
I think it's kind of undefined right now, other than just recognizing that we would be willing to help.
Okay.
Yeah, I think given the fact that those sites are targeted brownfield improvement areas by the CRG, they're gonna have a vested interest and stake in what they want to see happen there. So
And the grant through the CRG is to do a handful of phase 1 studies and then select certain sites if they fit the criteria that need a phase 2. Okay, but after that, there's no cleanup monies, okay, it's all, after that, it's basically, here's your phase 2 study, this is how it should be cleaned up. This is what's, you need to clean up, so to speak, and it's chasing dollars to actually do the cleanup, so.
Where do dollars come from?
To be determined.
Grant states, United States, yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
The issue a lot of times with state grants is you have to fund the cost before you get reimbursed.
Are they like the 50-50 grants, or are they 65 or 100%?
I don't really know, honestly.
I've seen them in all those ranges,
Okay.
where sometimes they're the hard cost and then the soft costs aren't included. So the actual cleanup, the labor, the machinery, the equipment, but then.
I believe the BOAs offer basically tax credits for the effort to clean up, right? That's the incentive to work on a BOA site.
Okay, so we're gonna have the goals that are there on page 5. We'll add the one about participate in county discussion on housing. And would someone be willing to make a motion to adopt those as the ID's goals for 2023?
Make the money.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right. With T-bills, our second T-bill, that we took out, last fall is set to expire on February 16th. Current interest rates on T-bills are shown on your agenda. The plan has been to renew each of these to a 12-month T-bill, which would be generating 4.72%. So we're going to need to take an action today to authorize renewing that T-bill for whatever period, that 12-month time period you wish. I would want to put out for discussion because of that current rate of 4.72%, we may want to consider investing more dollars into a T-bill. And now, what we could do is, because the rate between a 12-month and a 6-month is very little, we could renew it for or we could invest more monies, reinvest this, the one that's renewing now for 12 months.
And how much is that?
250. Okay, and then we would take another chunk of money and put it into a 6-month. All right, a little shorter term in case there was something come up where we would need it, but we'd still be getting 4.67%. Okay, so what I'm suggesting is that we have a motion to authorize renewing the current T-bill for 12 months. And then add another 500 in for a 6-month T-bill.
So we have 1.5 in T-bills. So.
Correct. Right. Okay.
Yeah, if you remember, we took originally $1 million and what they call laddered it, but 250 and 3, 6, 9, and 12. So every time a 3 month comes up, we do a 12 months. So we always have 250,000 coming up at 3 month intervals. So if we did, with taking another 500, we'd have 250, 750, 250, 250.
I would support that because right now our money is just sitting there, and if we can get the increased interest, that's great. And any projects that we may need to fund usually doesn't.
Yeah,
need the money right away either.
We'll still have sufficient dollars in our money market to cover all of their anticipated expenses for this year. Well, because the rates between the 6 and the 12 is so minimal, I would suggest that we just put that into a 6-month. Again, in the event something came up, that would be renewing much quicker. Okay. Are you making that as a motion?
I'll make that motion. Yeah.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
The bridge loan.
Annually, one of the requirements that the ID board has is to file a ST62 form with the state of New York, which is shown on the last page of your agenda. It's an annual form that we have to file reporting to the state if we granted any new sales tax exemptions in the previous year, if we amended any sales tax exemption in the previous year, or if we moved to recapture any sales tax benefits given to a company in the previous year. Last year, we did amend the amount of sales tax exemptions for the Benjamin Moore project. We did not move to recapture. We did not approve any new sales tax exemptions, which is how the form has been prepared. But the chairman needs to sign that form, and I need to have it filed by the end of the month. So, or by the end of March. So, asking for a motion to authorize the chairman to sign this form for calendar year 2022.
I'll make the motion.
Your second to that?
Second.
Greg, thank you. Any discussion?
Just on this form, John, number 4, do we have to have a yes or no one?
No, it's,
No, only if, only if there was a yes answer for question 3.
Okay.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carried. Last item, some board training. Again, these are key reporting dates that ID has to follow and comply with. If you look under the February board meeting, which we just did, we approved the ST60 form. I have to get that filed here soon. At your March meeting, we're going to go over the annual audit. That's we presented by Weston Company. I will present to you the annual report that you'll have to approve. And we're going to review other forms that we get from project sponsors dealing with sales tax exemptions. And again, I'll leave that for everyone to review. but those are some of the standard things that have to come to the IDA board every year and the order in which they come. So it's kind of what I follow in making sure that we take care of the various reporting requirements that we're obligated to follow. Last item, there were 3 new laws signed by Governor Hochul that will impact IDAs. The first one deals with resolutions and deviation notices. We are now required to send copies of these resolutions to the chief executive officers of each of the taxing jurisdictions, which includes, how does this differ from what we've been doing?
It doesn't.
It doesn't.
So you've already been doing this.
Yes.
We've already been sending the resolutions to taxing jurisdictions. The only modification with respect to this law is that will now include the school board president
Right.
on the distribution list.
We used to send it just to the superintendent of schools. Now we have to send it to the school board itself. So we're going to send it to the president of the school boards. Okay.
Look
Which
your mail.
for this Benjamin Moore notice, we will be doing, we'll be following that there. So next item with pilots, we're now going to be required to send notices of expirations to all taxing jurisdictions at least 2 years prior to the contract date. So for example, we are now this year, we'll need to send notices out soon to the taxing jurisdictions impacted by CG Roxanne, because that expires this year. Okay, so again, that's a little administrative requirement that now we have to follow. And then the last thing is on the next page, that if someone's going to be filing for a change of assessment, that they have to provide notification to the IDA. So if CG Roxanne was going to challenge their assessed valuation for some reason, that we would have to be notified of that. And that's now not something that's required, but it now will be for the company.
What's the purpose of that notification? That we might push back against the challenge, or?
I think that it's in part because sometimes when a Article 7 is filed, there's a missing communication. And so we've actually been involved in one where somebody was talking about it in my office. I said, they have a pilot. Why are they asking? Because of the way that it works. So I think it's trying to get everybody on the same page in case there's some sort of, because they don't necessarily have to do a title search to know if that's under a pilot agreement. So if depending on how the pilot invoices go out, I think it's just to kind of fill that gap so everybody's on the same page as to what's happening.
Gotcha.
And I think the difference is without a pilot, they get a bill from the taxing jurisdiction.
Mhm.
With a pilot, they don't get a bill.
Right.
Well, it also depends on who sends out the pilot invoices. So in Fulton County, the taxing jurisdictions send out the invoices for pilots. In other communities, sometimes it's the IDA who sends it out.
Gotcha.
So I think that it's an attempt to make sure everybody's involved and on the same page and knowing what's
Gotcha.
going on.
Okay.
All right. That's all I have for open session. I would ask now for a motion to go into executive for the purposes as stated on page 9 of your agenda.
Make that motion.
Right.
Second.
I see his dad's.
Bye,
All in
Dennis.
favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Anyone opposed?
He thought he was just gonna
Executive
sneak
at
out.
8:40 a.m. Joe and Greg?
Yep.
At all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
9:50 a.m. Our next meeting is Tuesday, March 14th. Would someone make a motion to close, please? I'll make that motion. Second to that?
Let's see. Second.
I was staying out of it this time.
Sue's usually the first one.
All in favor, say aye. We are done at 9:58 a.m.